let's assume you had some good luck in looking into your life, your skills, your primary interests in the world, the way you do the world, and you did find a story about you that was unique, different, you know, enough to tell your kids and your grandkids about, in some way that will leave them with some wisdom about a path that they might seek, or seek and then change, and then seek and then change. So it's wonderful to adventure through life. Don't just carry one character through the whole deal. And I do say that you need to manufacture an ego in order to try things out. And it is also good advice is don't think the ego is you. No, that's the character you've assumed for the next adventure, which could last a year or 5 minutes. Last year I was the Holy Fool, and I got some clothes that represented the Holy Fool, and I got some characters together, and I found that teaching with humor was really getting my bigger ideas across with a lot more power, actually. So let's assume now you're ready to actually write some things to add to your picture book. And this would be a mini autobiography. I mean, the only people who have to write long books about what they did are people who need to thank other people for working with them in very big jobs, usually. But 20 pages would be great. And 20 pages interspersed with photographs and pictures of yourself in costumes and a few artifacts and the favorite house you lived in, that's good. So let's talk about the writing part now. And the question is still, you start with, what is the most unique thing about your life? What is the most unique thing that you tried to do or be? When you followed your heart, what happened? And I don't mean every time you followed your heart, but find 3 or 4 times when you made a choice from your own, the place where you love yourself enough to take a stand or do something, and explain what happened as a result of that journey. And while you're at it, what in life caused you to wake up, and when? And what was the wake up? And very often we find that the dark night of the soul, and everybody has at least a couple of those. I mean, the world is designed for you to bump into stuff, for sure. And the question is when you bumped into it, that stuff, what was your awakening? As the Japanese say, kensho. Who were some of your heroes? And by now, you should be able to relate to those in specific ways. Like, I love Don Quixote, because no matter what he stumbled into, he always made his own dream up about it, and did exactly what he wanted to do in his dream, and blamed it. I mean, the windmill became the castle, and God knows what became the princess, but he won her over by killing the dragon, whatever that was. But he imagined to go to bed at night with a really great adventure under his belt. My favorite other character is Casanova, because he traveled all over Europe telling each of the respective kings and queens what the other kings and queens were up to. And for the most part, it calmed them all down, and they had to build less big armies, etc. And it must have been hard on his buns, though, because riding around in a steel-rimmed wagon was probably not too exciting. But he asked to be paid in silk sheets, bonbons, and smart girls. So I can sign up for that. I like that one a lot. What did you love to create the most? When you find yourself whistling when you're doing something, what is it you're doing? And write about that. What subjects really attracted to you, and when you studied them, what did that leave you with? We're all a scholar in something. And for some people, it might be building a cabin. And for other people, it might be making a beautiful garden. But we're all good at something. What are some kooky things about you? Tell a couple of embarrassing stories. Write those. People love that. The part about where you were human and there was nothing you could do about it. How did you ever decide that you might have qualified to be a good friend to somebody? When were you a good friend? And what story would you tell that would actually, let's go to the deepest part of you, go to the part that says, when I got right down to the very edge of it, here's the character that stood up and did whatever they did. Yeah, and when do you know that you're wealthy? Gosh, you'll find that the 6,000 square foot house is not going to do it for you. We're having a whole bunch of stuff to take care of. I mean, we're all learning about how dubious it is to have too many things because they end up running our lives. But what for you constitutes wealth? And that could be a number of really interesting things. And when somebody was thinking about you and they had a problem that they needed help with, what is it that you would be able to help them with? When was it that you were really a specialist and you felt actually better about helping them than actually thinking about the work that you were doing? Who were you then? Because everybody has a healing skill. Everybody usually has a mechanical skill. So work on that a little bit. And it's for kids, I think it's important to talk about your hobbies. And I've heard so many guys say, "Oh, when I retire, I'm going to go fishing," and they went fishing twice. And how many people who bought exercise equipment have the exercise equipment in the basement? They did it 4 times. Those are pipe dreams. You might write some stories about how they didn't work. That would be cute. And what part of your family history do you carry on? Like when I look back at my families, it wasn't important to me the names of the people. What was important to me was their vocations. What did they do? Well, most of them were public servants, and they were blabbermouths as well. All I can say is they spoke about the issues of the day, and that's what I do too. And well, how about you? How did you know when you were making a difference? What did you tell yourself? So you're getting to the end of this little written part now. You have to come to some conclusion. And then you can tie your family name back in, maybe, and maybe there's a time to tie, because the kids will enjoy that part, knowing that because they can identify with their lineage, their legacy. And then finally, what makes you the happiest? I remember that deal they asked this woman, if she had her life to do all over again, what would she do? And she'd say, I'd eat a lot more ice cream. Well, I'm sure you have a list like that too. Recognize the more you shape your understanding of what you are, the easier it is to see what you can do next. The easier it is for you to know how to reward yourself, for how to love yourself, recognize yourself. And that, to that degree, you become bigger, warmer, more accessible, more supportive. And you may even find that you never imagined that by giving love and giving support, you actually felt better than when you were just receiving it. It's a huge thing to see that. And that means that if everybody did that, wow, the whole world would be not only fixed, but everybody would feel good too. Well, look, have fun with this. Write a little bit each day. Don't think you have to write it all at once. Go back over it. Share it with a couple of the people in your family as you write. It'll be absolutely necessary to do this when you're maybe in your 50s or 60s, but starting early is a fine thing to do too. You might just work from the notes, but the sooner you get something down that you can start to use to tell people who you are, the easier it will be for you to get the things in life that you want. Your resume is not going to catch exactly what you want, People don't really look at those things anymore. They're pretty stilted. But if you tell somebody by looking at them in the eye, here's what I really love to do. And I know I'm good at it because I did one last year and I did one the year before, and it came out like this. So you're showing your portfolio rather than this list of artificial things that everybody can write. I worked in this job, I was a project manager, so, I was a supervisor, so, I was an analyst, so how does that make a difference to the team? How does that make a difference to the family? I know it'll make a difference to you. Go Planet!